Am I too old to learn French? No, you're never too old to learn any new thing. It's all about the time. The major challenge that I realize adults have is time. So many things are pulling their time, so many things are pulling their attention. So it's very difficult to be committed to a French class. However, when they come to class, they're able to learn quickly. The key thing about an adult class is that you are not now going to learn the basics. Yes, you learn the basics, all right. But as you're learning the basics, you must quickly, right from the start, pick the capacity to speak. That is very, very easy to do. However, if you come to class today and you don't come tomorrow, you don't come the next week, by the time you come back to class, you would have forgotten some of the things that you've already learned. And then you have to start afresh, which becomes frustrating for you and for the teacher as well, right? So as I mentioned, the major challenge that adults have when learning French is time. Work is calling, your children are calling, so many things are drawing your attention, and so you don't have the time to really focus as you should. I have done 12 cohorts, like 12 batches of adults groups since 2021. So when I say that adults' major challenge is time, I know what I'm talking about, because there are some who go, when they come at first, I tell them that, all right, this is what I noticed about adults. I need you to sit up. Oh, I'm so serious. I'll get it done. It's not about being serious. The people who sign up for the lessons are very serious people. They are committed. They are people who are doing well in their various fields. But the time to come to class, it what becomes a challenge. And so they are not able to make progress. Fortunately, some of them finally admit that I was right in saying that adults have this challenge. They go back to whatever they are doing and come back at a point where they realize they have enough time to now commit to the learning of French. There, they make progress. So, as I mentioned, you are never too old to learn French. However, you need to really make time and be committed to it. Right. I'm now going to add other challenges that adults have when they are learning French. The second challenge that adults have is transliteration. Transliteration is when we do a direct translation from one language to another, as opposed to translation, which looks at the context. You don't just change word for word, but you look at the context and make sure that it fits into what is spoken in the destination language. Right, so let me give examples. In English, we say, little drops of water makes a mighty ocean. In French, the same thing is translated as petit à petit, l'oiseau fait son nid. Little by little, the bird makes its nest, which is nothing directly in line with the first one. And in my local language, we say nkaka nkakra na wazi nkakra. Okay, so you realize that in different languages, what you are saying, if you want to translate it to another language, you have to make sure that you're saying something that is acceptable in that language. Another example that I want to say is we have like father, like son in English. In French, it is tel père, tel fils. In my local language, we say koton wanoma. Okay, you don't say today, not today, but no. So that is how I'm using the local language so that in case if you understand it, you get what I'm talking about. If you don't understand, at least you can get it from the English aspect of it, right? So whenever you are changing from one language to another, you have to make sure that whatever you are saying is acceptable in the destination language. In English, when you say thank you, the response is you're welcome, right? So I realized that sometimes when you say merci to people, they will say bienvenue or bon arrivé. No, that is not the case. You have thrown the whole language away, right? That is because in French, they don't use that. It's just like, I like using the local language. If you have your local language, you can try with it and see how it works. In Fanti, when somebody says medase, you don't say akwaba. You say ndase nyuho, and amonkoho. You get that? Yeah, so it's the same with French. The fact that in English we say thank you, and then you say you're welcome, that welcome is different from the one that you use when you're saying it in French. So in French, when somebody says merci, you can say de rien or Je vous en prie. I like that one, but people are scared of it. Je vous en prie. De rien, je vous en prie, or pas de quoi. Okay, so that is how it works. And then the last two that I'm going to take from French, last two expressions that people have problems with because the structure is different from the English one. The first one will be the age. In French, when you're talking about your age, you don't use je suis. We have all learned that je suis means I am. But when you're talking about your age in French, you don't say je suis plus your age. You say j'ai, I have. Okay, so if you want to say I'm 10 years old, you say j'ai 10 ans. I have 10 years. J'ai 10 ans. You may say je suis 10 ans. Somebody will understand you, but it is wrong French. Then also we have, sometimes you ask somebody, comment ça va? Comment ça va means how are you? Then the person will say, je suis bien. No, je suis bien, I am fine. Je suis means I am, but you don't respond, je suis bien. You have to say, je vais bien. Je vais bien, I am going well. So these and many others are the reasons why when you're learning French, as much as possible, you do not use your English mindset to learn it. Sometimes the English mindset will work for you, but at other times it doesn't work for you. And the part which sometimes becomes frustrating for teachers, that's why French teachers have been fighting with you, is that some of them will insist. The teacher knows what he's talking about, but some of the learners will insist that this is what I learned, that je suis means I am, so this is how I have to say it. For me, because I'm a Ghanaian and I speak English as well, I know why you are having that problem. But somebody who was born in a Francophone country and has never heard I am for the age being spoken, the person will also not understand why you are insisting on that. So they begin to get angry. Angry because you are boring them, you are frustrating them. Okay, so when you're learning French, please just relax. Let the teacher teach you. Use a French mindset. Just go straight to French. The third point, still on this French mindset, is that when people are learning French, they expect you to use English as a medium of tuition. English can be used as a medium of tuition sometimes, but ideally, the rules of FLE, when we talk about FLE, it is Français langue étrangère. There are rules that are given for the teaching of French. Those rules require that we use French to teach you French, because when we are teaching English, let's look at it this way. When you are teaching English, do they use your local language to teach you? Do they use another language to teach you? No. It is what? Visuals, audios, straight to English. It's the same way that when we are teaching you French, we should do that. So I personally have a problem with people who expect you to teach French in the vague or with abstract things. It doesn't work. Sometimes when people buy my books, they ask me, why is it that you have not written English in the books? And I said, okay, that is why I have put the images there. It is important that when you are learning French, you are looking at the image and hearing the pronunciation. You don't need to go through English. If you go through English, the mind is so used to English, so comfortable with English that when it sees French and English, the first thing it will pick will be the English. So your goal to learn French will delay. It will delay massively as compared to you just seeing French and hearing French and seeing the image as the one conveying the message to you. Sometimes we use the actions as well. I would have loved to teach it that way to adults as well. But adults are not flexible. So for children, assuming I'm teaching a child how to say I am eating, I do this. Je mange. Je mange. Now they know this action, so they say it. Je mange, right? It sticks. Je parle. Je parle. It sticks. Okay, so we learn all these things before we begin to add the English. Ideally, I'm not supposed to add the English. But then, as a Ghanaian who learns French, I also know how frustrating it will be if you go and sit in a class where it's just French being spoken. Meanwhile, you don't understand the French, right? So, as I mentioned, just know that if a teacher is speaking too much of French in a French class, it's because that is how it's supposed to be. And if you want to learn French and make progress, Avoid the use of materials that have the English written together with the French. The fourth one we'll look at is pronunciation. Sometimes I meet people who tell me that, oh, I can read French, but when I have to speak it, I have issues. Now, you give them a chance to read French to you, and you realize that what they are reading is not French. It is Frenglish, because they are reading it with English sounds, but they are so confident that all this while, they thought that they could read French. Now, the thing is that French phonetics are different from English phonetics, or let me say French sounds are different from English sounds. So if you're learning French and you really, really want to get it right, it's important to focus on lessons or teaching methods that are making use of pronunciations. Wherever you're learning it from, you should hear the pronunciations. And you're not just hearing it, you speak it back. They say it, you repeat it. They say it, you repeat it. People want to hear, but they don't want to open their mouth and repeat it. When you do that, it doesn't help. And I've experimented it amongst my students. I made them realize it by themselves. That a word or an expression will come. I'll say repeat it. Some of them will not repeat it. You realize after some time, when I come back, that they should read it out or they should speak it out to me. Only those who spoke out, only those who repeated it are able to reproduce what has been taught. So if you really want to learn your French and learn it right, listen. Listen to the pronunciation and repeat it. It is also important that you learn how to pronounce it even before you see the word or even see the spelling. The reason being that I noticed that when my students have not seen the words, like when I say, j'habite à Accra, j'habite à Takoradi, they are able to pronounce it well. But immediately I show the word, then it becomes j'habite. So I usually make sure that they pronounce it. Then I tell them that, remember what you said before you see it. So when you see it, you are tempted to say j'habite, but then you have to remember what you spoke before you pronounce it so that you don't make a mistake. So please, whenever you're learning French, it's important that you learn how it's pronounced even before you see how it's written. But then if you see it together, whatever be the case, as you are listening, make sure that your focus will not be on the spelling, but on the pronunciation, so that you not end up reading it with English sounds instead of French sounds. And finally, practice, practice, practice. The French people say, c'est en forgeant qu'on devient forgeron. Practice makes perfect in everything that you do. If you want to be able to do it well, you have to what? Practice it. People come to French class. They say they want to speak French. Immediately we start the full-time speaking sessions, or immediately you give them speaking assignments. They run away from class, and I wonder, why are you running away from class? If you didn't want to speak, why did you come for the class in the first place? Listen, I am a Ghanaian. I grew up right here. I learned the French right here in Ghana, and I was considered as a French child. But I went to France, and simple bonjour, I could not understand it because the accent was different. I always tell people that my first day at church in France, I cried. Not because I was touched by the word of God, but because, Charlie, I didn't understand anything. And I sat there crying because, hey, you have been getting 100% in essays, you have been getting big marks, you've been doing so well, everybody knows you to be the French child. Now you come to the land itself and you realize you are nobody. You are nobody. I didn't hear anything that was spoken in the sermon, and it made me feel ashamed of myself. So I gave myself a goal that in 3 months, I should be able to speak it. So whatever that they did at the school to help us, I immersed myself fully into it. Speaking sessions, reading sessions, everything, I immersed myself in it. And then I made sure that I went back to the same church that tormented me the first time. Although I didn't hear it the first time when the message was preached, I went back to the same church. It was over an hour away from our school. There were English church services around. I didn't go there. I went back to that place, made myself uncomfortable over and over and over again until I finally became comfortable with the language. And it made me speak so fast and so well. I picked their accents and could easily communicate with them. So I'm telling you, I've been through that. it becomes heartbreaking and embarrassing when you realize you cannot really speak it the way you want to. But that is when you have to keep immersing yourself in the language. How do you immerse yourself in the language if you don't live in the country where the language is spoken? Right now in our times, we have social media. You can follow French speaking stations or channels. You can follow or listen to RFI, Radio France Internationale, RFI. Okay, you can listen to RFI, you listen to French radio. You don't necessarily have to understand everything. Just listen to it. Make your ears adjust or get used to hearing that. With time, you realize that it is so easy for you to understand. It can take about just 2-3 weeks of consistency. All you need is consistency. Even if you can commit 10 minutes a day to hearing French and speaking it out, I tell you, you will pick up so fast and you'll be amazed at the result. All right, so thank you. My name again is Madame Wilhelmina Daka. Follow me on Facebook and Instagram, and follow my page, Achievers Success Hub. If you want your children to learn French, please stay in touch. As I said, check out my page, Achievers Success Hub. You'll see the wonderful things that we are doing with the French language and how easy and fun it is to learn French. As for adults, please stay away from me. I've given up on you. Thank you. Bye. Au revoir.